here in New York, my hometown, actually born in Miami. I tend to talk too fast, so feel free to wave me down or something. I want to thank Robert, his wife, his family, all of the people who put this TBLI thing together. We were talking about TBLI, about impact investing earlier today, and I think Robert said it's sort of like the preseason games, in baseball or something, because it's not yet ready. We're too early talking about doing this kind of socially responsible investing and everything. And credit has to go to the people who are now making all that effort, even though they're not seeing those great results, and really that's your people. Now, I'm telling you, when this thing hits, it's going to be like a rocket ship. And what we're doing now, which is laying the foundations for ethical and socially responsible investing, will be critical, absolutely critical. And I'll explain why in my talk in a few minutes, for the development, really, economic development of the world, millions of poor people, etc. Let me give you a bit of background here. We have been very successful in poverty reduction. I know people talk about it and say, well, not so, but in fact, 1 billion people have moved out of extreme poverty from 1990 to 2010. We've literally beat the MLG, the Millennium Development Goals of the United Nations, by 5 years. Nobody should think you're not successful in what we're doing. Now, most of that took place because of economic growth. 2/3 of it. And only 1/3 was based on changing who had the money. So it wasn't all about income redistribution, new money, new energy, and 2/3 of that was in India, it was in China. Which didn't believe in MLG, it didn't subscribe to the United Nations stuff. And so my main point here, the world is moving rapidly, quickly. 1 billion, almost 1 billion people. We've had poverty in developing countries. From, let's see what the numbers are, something like 23% or down to 43% to 21% in developing countries. So there's about 1 billion people that no longer earn $1.25 a day. They're just thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner tonight. And there's 1.1 billion more poor people out of 7 billion in the world. So we're sort of halfway there. And there's discussions now about the new MLG goals since 2015. And the intention is to get another 1 billion people out of poverty in the next, till 2030. And I'm convinced this can and this will be done. Reducing extreme poverty. Now, that sounds great. I'm so happy for it. Can someone please think about the unintended consequences of this? 1 billion more people already wanting washing machines and cars and every kind of raw material you can imagine. It means there's a flip side to the blessing. There's a flip side to this wonderful thing that we're doing. And that is, there are not enough resources in the world to meet the requirements of this new anti-poverty thing we're doing. It's not just the people that are making $1.50 a day or $2 a day or $3. It's the middle classes who are millions of new Chinese millionaires. And so when I look at the world and I say this is just great, I also think about, well, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal with this? And I'm thinking like global resource warfare. Currencies as the weapons of choice. We're going into a non-stable environment. Right now, if we look at the world and we try to understand what happened over the last 20 years, America bought the peace with China. We gave them jobs. We gave them our money. They took debt. Basically, we said, here, China, you got all the jobs you can want, you got unemployment, you reduce your poverty, your poor people by 680 million people. Chinese poverty went from 84% in 1980, 84% of the people below the poverty line thinking, what am I going to eat for dinner? To only 10% now. America bought the peace. And we didn't have a nuclear war with them. We didn't fight with them. We gave them jobs. And I don't want anyone here to misunderstand the power of economic development, business. Governments are cute. Governments are interesting. Governments are generally impotent. What really matters is business people and the private sector and their ability to change the world. The reason that China went one way and Africa went another is because of the ability of the private sector to create jobs in China. That's why we went from 86% poverty to 10%. And these non-poor people now have a stake in development. It's something like a capitalistic communism. So we changed the world. Think of what the Jackson-Vanik Amendment did in terms of trade with the Soviet Union, which is now Russia. And so I'm making a major point here that the private sector and business is the key to the development of the world as we know it. And it's just going to get more that way. Governments can create an enabling environment and get out of the way. But no government regulation ever created development. Only the private sector. Which takes us to what we're doing here today. So I'm looking at the world, I'm saying resource warfare, currency is the weapon of choice, resource allocation and utilization, technology. Look, Ma, no paper. 10 years from now, no one's going to have paper. Not in real business anyways. I go to the credit card and the taxes, I don't pay with paper money. When I say no paper, I mean no paper money. And our world, our technology is creating an environment where we can meet these challenges, these tremendous challenges that we're going to face. And that's going to require investment. You guys in this room are the catalyst for a new type of investment. It's true, you're very fun. You're looking to invest based on being nice guys. It reminds me of dating. I have a kid. My daughters are married, thank God. Finally, I have a son, 30 years old. I'm trying to explain the game to him. So I said, the way it works is this. The guy chases the girl until she catches him. Now, you guys can chase these guys. You can be looking at money. But ultimately, the real energy is going to come from a marketplace that's going to come up with tremendous ways to save resources, to introduce technology, to get rid of paper, to get rid of wood, plastic wood, I don't know, you name it. But there's going to be new ways that we are going to have to deal with materials and resources. I don't know, they're talking about synthetic beef. They're talking about all these things, and I believe that ultimately this is going to happen. I mean, if you look at Africa, the most dangerous thing in Africa is still, or almost not, the mosquito. More people died in malaria than the Civil War, and God knows there's a lot of wars. But what was the most powerful force of change in all of Africa? Who can tell me? The greatest thing. What? Cell phones, exactly. And they're using them for banking now in Nigeria. I'm saying there's no limit to what technology and investment in technology can do to change the world and meet the challenges. And if you haven't yet felt this energy, this demand for investment, it's simply because you're on the world. But by setting the groundwork, setting the framework, setting the ways to measure beneficiation or to measure ethical investment, that's so important. And so whatever you guys are doing, you can't imagine how important it is to set this foundation. We'll have cultured products. We'll have all kinds of things coming up that are going to create unbelievable opportunities for change and development, because we will have to change if we're going to meet the needs of 1 billion or 2 billion more middle class. Because I said 1 billion people left poverty, but they're on the way to middle class income. You're talking approximately 80 million new middle class consumers entering the global marketplace every year for the next 10 years. The average age in India, 26 years old. 50% of the population is under 26. And they're all hungry, and they're all smart, and they're all getting educated, and they all want to grow. So the kind of economic forces we are going to see over the next decade or two is simply going to blow us away. You cannot imagine the amount of demand and the amount of needs for investment in products that are going to come up. And then a technological transformation. I mean, it's beyond imagination. Now, governments are not the solution. Somebody say, what should I do? This and that. There's going to be resource warfare. Governments aren't going to solve our problems. As a matter of fact, governments are part of the problem because we think they're the solution. We tell you an African story. Okay, this is Chief. Chief comes to the village, and he sees everybody's looking around. What are you looking for? Well, one of his diggers, and they dig for diamonds, and lost this big diamond, and everybody's looking for the diamond. So the chief sits in his chief chair, and he says, bring me the digger. They bring him the digger. He said to the digger, digger, where did you lose the diamond? And the digger says, I lost the diamond in the cave over there. And so the chief asks the community, he says, why are you all looking here? They said, here there's light. Here there's light. Government policy. I know AID is a sponsor, God bless you, to save lives. It's wonderful. But the fundamental problem that we have is we are looking in the wrong places for the solutions. And we really need to be careful about that. Laws have limitations. Out in Sierra Leone, okay? I was there during the war. I was there after the war. 25% at that time, and now it's 20% of the children die before the age of 5. And they're talking about legislation. In this room, what would you do to save your kid? What wouldn't you do? And you talk to me about laws, about smuggling diamonds in such an environment. You talk about democracy when people don't have what to eat that night for dinner. Democracy without economic democracy is bullshit. You can't have free societies and free worlds if people don't have what to eat. If they don't have what to eat, they kill each other. It's that simple. Yeah. So we need to understand the power of the private sector, the power of the investment sector, the power that we have as business people or investors to change the world, and not just give that up and say it's not my problem. It is our problem, it is our challenge, it is our opportunity. International law is an oxymoron. Governments and countries do whatever they want. The World Trade Organization is very interesting. It does some good things too. I'm not against it. But I am telling you, if you have to rely on international law, God help you. Government law doesn't work in failed states, but what does work is natural law. Things like reciprocity, things like we understand each other. So when you have no human rights, government laws are meaningless. When you have human rights, they start to get traction, and the private sector rules what's going on. If you go to Sierra Leone and you want to eat without getting sick, if you want a mosquito net, you find a local Lebanese guy that will supply it to you. It's the private sector that rules in the absence of other scenarios. And the world, when the world gets cranky and weird and it's international, it's always going to be the private sector. So, what's going on with the private sector? I found the discussions today in resort to be kind of interesting. And everyone wants to do the right thing. But do you realize how quickly the private sector is running towards you? Yeah. Good. Because there's what I call the flight from evil. If you have a brand and you happen to have your textiles made in Bangladesh, God help you. If you don't know your source of supply, you don't have your supply chain figured out, and you have a brand, God help you. Dodd-Frank woke up the world to say, where's my gold coming from? Where's my titanium coming from? I don't know. Did anybody die to make my iPhone? Yeah. Android. And they're not going to be able to continue to do business the way they were, so we are what I would call the slippery slope of legitimacy. Companies are finding out that they have to verify and confirm their supply chain, and they can no longer rely on the cheapest price things, and that's it. That means that there's more to life, there's more to business, and there's more to profits than prices. And that's where these values that I'm hearing about here start coming up. People aren't talking, and amazing things. Someone said, we invest money, she said today, and we're not so interested in the return, we just want our money back. What kind of business is that? So I don't blind it. Sorry. Come down from me, I'll blow your way. But the question really is, can we be ethical? Can we be ethical? If you're the CEO of a company, and your job is to return maximum value to the stakeholders and the investors, maybe you can say the employees are stakeholders. Can you really say, I'm going to do something beyond my business? I'm going to reduce my profit margins? I'm going to pay less dividends. My stock price isn't going to go up because I would like to be socially conscious. I would like to give charity. Could you do that? Is it ethical for a CEO to take a position that is above and beyond maximizing return to shareholders? This is a real question. You can package it in the brand. You can say, I'm Tiffany. I want a supply chain which is very controlled because part of my brand is I have a secure source of supply. I know where my products are coming up, and I don't have human rights issues or anything like that. So that might be an interesting approach, if you can package it with a branding. And I am predicting more and more branding everywhere in the world for every product. Nobody has a watch without a name on it. No one will have diamond jewelry without a name on it. And I doubt you're going to be buying jeans or anything else without a name on it. And when you put a name on something and you brand it, you are susceptible to the risk of reputational risk. So what I'm predicting is that in the Western world, there's going to be more and more requirements for supply chain management, supply chain verification, and I think that we're coming to the point where you have to recognize that we are moving to a value-oriented society. Millennials don't trust advertising. You know, Pavlov did a good job with dogs because he rang the bell and the dog salivated. But you know, if Pavlov would have tried his experiment with cats, it wouldn't work. Millennials are not dogs. They don't believe everybody. They believe each other. But they're cats. Our society, our advertising, our marketing, our brand positioning, it's all moved elsewhere. Those guys are really talking. What's happening out there? Fill me in. Come on, tell me what's going on. I can walk all over the place. I can feel it. What's happening? Tell me what's happening. Hey, listen, what are you doing? An impact investor. You having a good time? You gonna change the world? How old are you? All right, you're not even a millennial yet. Anybody millennial? Are there any millennials here? Anybody under 30? One millennial? We need more of you guys. But the bottom line is you guys are going to rule. The old people are getting old, and it's the young people that are going to change the world. I'm almost finished, everybody. But my point is that we're moving to a value-oriented society. Our kids are rebelling. Our kids are rebelling by saying, it's not all money. I want to have a comfortable life. I don't trust anyone except my friends on Facebook or whatever, LinkedIn. But I am telling you, the world is moving to the affluent world is moving to value-based societies. You guys are sort of like a byproduct of a much larger trend. It's true, you're too early. But we will be living in a value society. And what are these values? From my perspective, it's not just human rights and knowing your supply chain. From my perspective, I'm talking about open. That means everybody can enter fair, honest, transparent, efficient, competitive markets. From the Rapaport perspective, what's important is the creation of transparency. If it's about the supply chain, if it's about prices, our customers, be they, and you're used to some level of transparency in the financial world, but I'm talking about products, diamond rings, restaurants. Where does this food come from? How do you know it's okay? Did anybody in the poor pickers working on it? I'm saying to you that society is moving to a value-oriented world. And if you tune into that, you tune into the values, you're going to have what I would call socially responsible competition. The missing link in what you guys are doing, in my opinion, is the ability of companies to market their products as being of a higher ethical or moral value. And I'm predicting social competition. I'm predicting somebody will say, my diamond is better than your diamond because I know where it comes from and it's not a blood diamond. My suit is better than his suit because he doesn't know where his suit came from. It could have been Bangladesh. But my suit comes from a factory that's monogamous. And so once you get competition going in the goods market, that's going to drive ethical creation of products, and that's going to drive ethical investing. So you guys are too early, but once we see the flip side of this from the product side coming through, you're going to have unlimited opportunities to make your investments. And I just want to end up with one thing. Are products evil? Is money evil? I watch some of these protesters, and they're so frustrated with wealth and money and goods. And they think things are evil, diamonds are bad, even though millions of people in the world make their living, some of them very poor people, by creating the diamonds or mining them. Is money bad? Is money evil? And I think the responsibility that we have is to take things that could be used for bad and return them into good. So our goal is to have a value system. And to think of money as a value. Not just as a commodity, not just as a thing you can buy things with, but money is a way to change and to create values in the world around us. Because if we value money correctly, we do the right thing with it, unlimited good that we can do in the world around us. And you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to know where your product comes from. You are responsible for what you buy. You really are. If your money goes sloshing around in Africa and people get killed and people get enslaved because of it, you are responsible. You're responsible also for the unintended consequences of your actions. So money is a blessing and money is a curse. And how we deal with it, whether we use money in the right way to change the world and create positive, good, positiveness, this is our great opportunity. It's like fixing the world. And so I tell you, you don't realize how much good you're doing. You're all doing an incredible thing by looking at the social consequences of money. And I urge you to take the next step. Understand that the value of money is in your values. Thank you.